I don't think it's an insult to say that the state of our gacha story library is a pretty sorry sight. Further proven by how we think our standards have hit rock bottom, but have always been managed to get shoved deeper into the depths of a dumpster. But despite all the glaring issues that surround this community, a good portion of us are holding on to hope we aren't stuck in this garbage fire of a creative writing dump, including me. For the new generation of gacha creators in the making watching this, I'm your host, Ginger, and I'll be covering, low-key ranting about, potentially said before or unsaid before writing issues in the gacha story writing community, covering my opinions on what I've noticed of them, and dishing out advice to all those willing to tune in. So, cozy up, grab a laptop or a pen and paper if you want to take notes or brainstorm, and let's get started. Many people agree it's the execution, overdoneness, and stereotype cliché tropiness that caused gacha's downfall. But aside from those, there are many more mentionable factors to the reason behind the botching of gacha writing. Some factors go further back into the creation of the idea itself and how these could get mishandled disastrously. The root of a story is the idea, the random scenario or concept that propels you into making the story in the first place. One shouldn't assume that the one original or interesting idea is sufficient to capture the attention of your audience for the whole story. Now, I'm sure that's common sense. It's not like someone has just one idea and then boom, that's their whole story and they get to working. But what I mean is, I think some people get carried away. When they work on this grand concept or something they just really like, after a while, they don't see how shallow their plot can become. As an example of this, I'm going to use Love Language because it's an example of a gacha mini-movie that's not so generic and copy-paste, but pretty average in terms of quality. The fact that they spoke different languages and couldn't understand each other was a cute concept, but it wasn't used well and wasn't explored uniquely that could make it engaging. Sure, it could make their interactions slightly more fun than average, but the complexities a relationship could have that come with a language barrier weren't delved into quite that much. It was seemingly only there for fake conflict that wasn't even that hard to get over or one that the characters had too much struggle with. A language barrier as the main antagonist of a story is fully capable of creating a gripping narrative. There are the complications about the main character having to trust what the other says to them, or anyone else for that matter, without knowing if they're lying to their face. It's even more effective if one of the characters has had a past of being manipulated and rumored about, giving them trust issues that become one of the hurdles in the story. There's the complications of cultural differences or a feeling of lacking deeper communication that could spark a lot of arguments and frustration. These few ideas I brought up would make a language barrier fun to play with even without a big bad villain planning on destroying the world or a scheming, cunning alternate love interest in a way to halt their development. A language barrier with unstable characters would be just as effective in inciting extreme breakdowns. It was a good topic, but most of the development between the two lead characters was pretty basic, done before romance beats. Removing the language barrier would make it completely blend in with the rest of the generic gacha romance stories of our time. So, just because you have an intriguing title and the premise seems interesting, doesn't mean every other aspect can write itself. Just because you started off strong doesn't mean it's going to keep strong the whole way through. Without writing a cohesive plot, everything that comes afterwards will be doomed and set with flaws from the get-go. It's really nothing new to say this community has a big problem with repetitiveness and predictability within their story content. We of course have the overflow of romance stories to the point that the sheer amount of love genre stories in the community is enough to set you for a lifetime. We also have the alpha and bad boy stories and their millions of quote-unquote original variations. They don't call it original variations, but like they call it original. You get what I mean? They call it original even though it's not. Not to forget, of course, all the quirky, not like other girls behavior we see in gacha protagonists and their creators alike. Really, any easy-to-be-done trend or topic that goes viral will be heavily reiterated for generations to come. And due to the nature of the community, that cycle won't be changing anytime soon. Point is, we know these things are problems and acknowledge it to the high heavens, but a lot of people still wonder why it's all still going on. Well, another not-so-hidden fact is, a good portion of this community is made up of children who are easily impressionable. This is not to say that kids are stupid. In fact, I think it's because kids actively try out new and fun ideas, which is really every person's starting point for developing an interest or passion. With the gacha apps, they may feel empowered to make their own creations through the easy-to-use functions of the game. Some of them may be doing it because they want to have the same attention and impact the originals had and feel achievement within themselves for finishing a project. Some want to follow in the footsteps of YouTubers they idolize, having a medium to write their own story or animate their own experiences. In fact, when I first started out, I wasn't thinking about making a difference. That idea only developed after a while of me really just wanting to do something fun. And that's just it. Sometimes they may really just be doing it to pass the time and play around with the game's cute dress-up and story functions. They may not know all the norms and expectations of the people who've been in the community for a while. Because of this, some may not feel the need to or may not understand the idea of being ambitiously original with a new concept to give out. Some may find no problem in being one of those who go with the crowd, and we can still find popular gachatubers who do just that with thousands of followers. Considering some of their ages, they may not yet even understand how to have deep and compelling writing. Unfortunately, truth is, not everyone is going to care for originality, and that sometimes overpowers the ambitious and industrious crowd. This mindset may be changing a lot nowadays, but there are still very many simple-minded people roaming this earth. This sometimes bothers a lot of us who take our time and try so hard to come up with something original. But we should never really discourage people's creativity and their way of expressing it. Even with all this regurgitated content, it's an app free for everyone to use. We can't really gatekeep people out of it. And even if we may not like what may be done with it, at the end of the day, we shouldn't expect everyone to care about following the same rules a lot of us do, even if said rules what is expected and what is best for the best quality. Even though I just wrote a whole paragraph about not being able to stop people from creating overused or unsatisfactory content, that doesn't mean we should stop trying to critique or call out this behavior. Firstly, criticism is always important to improve, and while some criticisms are more valid and polite than others, it is always important to try and reflect on what was said to you. See if there is actually a problem and if you can fix it in the future, because you will never know there was a problem if no one points it out for you. You also become a part of the community when you engage and make content for it. Thus, you should also have enough online and social etiquette to not respond or act in negative, ignorant, and childish ways that may represent the community in a negative light. These gacha creators make content in the hopes people watch and enjoy it. Because they are producing entertainment, the viewers have their own rights to speak up when they are unhappy with the finished product. It is the law of the internet, and what you publish will always be subject to criticism, whether you like it or not. I'm not just saying this because I am part of the community that makes videos for the subgenre, but gacha discussion videos should have much more viewership with a bigger, more impactful voice to it. Gachatubers with content like my girl Komaksuri, who makes really good videos about the community that I really recommend checking out, should really get more traction as they put in the time and effort to help respectfully point out and repair a lot of the issues. I also think those gachatubers who promote creative ideas and events surrounding making original content should get a lot more attention. Sadly, as of right now, not a lot is changing even with the efforts being made. Not a lot of the prominent gachatuber figures speak in depth about these issues, and while some have tried, there were hints of hypocrisy or a lack of powerful impact in their actions and statements, which I find extremely unfortunate. So I'm going to be answering some of my own prayers by presenting you all with this lengthy video. giving you my analysis and advice on the variety of issues surrounding the norms of gacha mini movies and series as a whole. Wait, pause right there. So, you may have noticed that there's barely any video left, so does that mean the advice I'm going to be giving is literally only 2 sentences or something? Well, that's because this is supposed to be an about 40-minute video with all my points and advice into only one lengthy video. But considering some other factors, I decided against it and instead opted to do a 5-part miniseries focusing on major factors I think affect gacha writing and giving advice regarding that. These are the 4 next topics I'll be covering, and I'll be releasing each episode a week or more apart, so make sure to subscribe to see them when they eventually come out. I'm also pretty active and may post spoilers on my Instagram or Discord server, so go check that out if you are interested. Since the episodes were originally part of the same script, they may seem structured a bit weirdly, like the points weren't finished since again, they were recorded all at once and were supposed to be part of the same video. So don't mind it if you hear me say this lengthy video or a topic for its own future video in the episodes. Anyways, thank you so much for giving me the time of day, and see you in about a week.